Hello, I'm Charlotte Phillips, clinical hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner at What Is Your Story? Hypnotherapy.co.uk. Here's an introduction to how I became a hypnotherapist and some background about myself. When I was 10, I remember reading some magazines that my parents had collected called Crimes and Punishment, and in it were some, awful crimes in there, but I saw the word criminologist. So this would have been back in the mid-80s, and I hadn't ever heard of a criminologist before. But I thought, if they can help people stop doing crime, then I really want to do that. Like profiling people, and things like that. So that's what I wanted to be. But obviously at school in the UK, they don't teach psychology. They don't teach the subjects that you need to learn for criminology, not until you're at college. So you kind of just have to do the core subjects that you choose and that for your GCSEs. I think the education system's a bit bonkers there. Anyway, so I did go on to sixth form college, and I did at first GCSE, like law and sociology and psychology, and then I went on to do A-level sociology and psychology. And then when I was like 18, so after 2 years at college and in between doing my A-levels, I left and I went and did nursing for a year, and that was at Botley Park in Chertsey, and it was working with different disabilities of people. I remember having my interview, and this lady was laid out on a bed, like a high flat bed, and her head was so elongated and flat because she had water on the brain. So any care, had to be meticulously done, very careful to turn her, really look after her. And so my interview was being shown all the different disabilities that people could have, which I had never seen, as an 18-year-old. But I did nursing for a year, really enjoyed it. And I thought I need to go back to college, get my A-levels and continue my path to like helping people to, get like criminology. And I did sociology, psychology and fashion A-levels. And at that time, I was never good at exams. I used to write essays, get A's and B's for all my essays, do an exam. I don't know what it is. It's like, you do an exam and your mind goes blank, or you run out of time, and you just don't understand the question, all of that stuff. So I didn't get the grades I wanted. I did get fashion, so I ended up going through clearing and moved to Salisbury and did a HND in fashion, just 2 years of a degree, and really enjoyed that. And actually, when I think about fashion, there's a lot of psychology in fashion about how to wear things, what's appropriate, everything, when you learn the theory of it. And while I did the fashion, I ended up running lots of parties, doing lots of marketing, raising money for the fashion course, and doing our catwalk for our end of season and end of year season show. So I do a lot of that. So I knew a lot of people in Salisbury. Get bands, find somebody with an amp, somebody who could DJ, and then have a party, and then sell tickets. So if you got in a lift with me at college, from the fashion floor down to the reception, you were usually £2 lighter by the time you got out, but you knew where you were going that weekend or that evening, because some of the stuff was on a Thursday night in the gallery. Anyway, that was real fun. And then I moved up to London and ended up working in a pub, living and working in a pub in Albemarle Street, on the corner of Albemarle Street and Old Bond Street. So I had Gianni Versace shop next door and Gucci opposite, or the other way around, I can't remember exactly, but they were both there, and that was really cool. So it was about 6 months I worked there and lived there, and meant I got to know lots and lots of people around Mayfair, around Piccadilly, Bond Street, like people in JP Morgan, or loads of stuff. It was really, really good eye-opener and got me understanding London a bit better, like walking everywhere, knowing how it all worked. And I knew a lot of the policemen as well that were in Jermyn Street, and the tailors. They offered me a job there. Silly me, I didn't take it. Should have done. Oh dear. That's actually in G's and Hawkes, that would have been really good. But there we are. So, and then I ended up temping, working in doing reception and marketing. That's how I ended up starting my career, as in getting real work experience by doing mail merges and adverts and all of that, and working travel agent, setting up a travel agency with my friend Jeffrey to do with golf and dive Turkey, so it's specialist holidays to do golfing and scuba diving. I've got loads of PR with the Turkish tourist board, and that was just the bizarrest meetings, because you're a female, back then anyway, this was in the 90s, it should have been like 90, 98, 99, because you're a female, 99, Turkish, I remember the chap wouldn't talk to me directly. Everything I said I had to say to Jeffrey, even though we're in the same room and he could hear me. He wouldn't do business with a female. It was very bizarre for me, but we got some money and some sponsorship, and we helped promote Turkey, but unfortunately there was a lot of terrorism going on, so we had to fold the company. And then I got a job at Confederation of British Industries, the CBI, looking after events, doing all the admin, but also supporting with, I think it was at least 150 events, and then broadband was on the scene. So then I was off my path for helping people per se. I was in sort of corporate world, going around the country, doing these events, up in Aberdeen for the apparel stuff, helping, fit for the future, helping businesses talk to each other to help each other, learning the best ways to do things. And I did that for 2 years, and then 9/11 happened, and that kind of changed a lot of things in London, how people reacted to each other. I mean, the whole time I was living in London, there were bombings, nail bombings, which had just missed, like by about half an hour, the exact place where they were. So I was very lucky. And there was other things like, if you left your bag, you could cause a bomb scare, which I nearly did once, leaving my bag in Piccadilly in McDonald's at the time. And they ran out and said, "Is that your bag?" Because I was there with a friend of mine who's Irish, another friend of mine who's Australian, and they were like, this looked like a real setup. I was like, no, I didn't mean to leave my bag. And they were going, "Gosh, thank you." And I was sharing a flat with a friend who's just a friend. He owned the flat, and he was a policeman, Chinese policeman in the flying squad. We're not friends anymore, but that was a real eye-opener as well to what was going on. So he would give me the heads up if there was like a yardie thing going on, like gang fights and stuff. But then we ended up falling out. He moved into his girlfriend's and was just moving people in and out of the flat, and it was not the same. So I got a house. I rented a house instead of in Shoot Up Hill, which is West London, Northwest London. I went to East London, to Fremont Street, which is on the corner of Victoria Park. So it's lovely, really nice. You're in Hackney, so East End. And 9/11 had happened, and lots of people that were there in London just were behaving very differently. Wouldn't talk to you, it was very uncomfortable. And then I went to Lee Evans' comedy club one night with my manager, actually. Walked her back to the tube station, and I went back to see the rest of the club. So I was on my own, but I thought, oh, I'm not that far from home, I'm only a 10-minute walk, you know, always thinking the best of the situation. But when I left, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I remember being one side of the zebra crossing, and bearing in mind I'd already done this once with my manager when I got home, walked her to the tube. The next thing I know, I'm the other side of the road, on the floor, in a fetal position, and I can hear shouting, a guy and a girl, and this girl, a white blonde girl, was about to boot me in the face. But I just woke up, and my body instinctively just went into a fetal position, and when I did that I ended up kicking her away, luckily for me, and I'd landed on my handbag which had my money in and my cards, and obviously back then you had a lot of cash, or you used to just take cash out because most places just took cash rather than card, and that's what she was after. So they were heroin addicts, and this Rastafarian across the road shouted, screamed at them, and they pegged it. And he came over. I went to stand up, and I realised my knee was out swollen where they'd dragged me across the road, across the zebra crossing. So they must have knocked me out cold, then dragged me across. He didn't want to phone the police. He said, I'll just carry you home. And for him, it was like it could have been his sister. You know, that could have happened too. I did tell the police the next day, and then CCTV got put there. They did find people that did it, but nothing else ever happened. No, I never got an interview. I never did a statement or anything. It was just telephone conversations. When in London and the Met, it's almost like, not bothered. You know, it was. He just felt, was it worth ever reporting the crime in London? Anyway. But because there was 9/11, and because, an attempted mugging, it really shook me up. It makes you kind of question, is this the right place to live? Is this where you want to be in your life? What path are you taking? Because I've been at CBI for 2 years, and I really enjoyed it. I was having fun, but it wasn't really what I'd set out in my career path to do. I was doing a bit more copywriting and, helping with projects and things like that, as well as doing all the events. So it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed doing it. But I ended up deciding to move back to Salisbury, because Salisbury was a safe place. Always loved it. I had to carry on visiting back after I'd left in 97, and now we're in December 2001. So I kind of just threw my whole life up in the air. And I was in my late 20s. And so I just moved, rented a house, handed my notice in, and I didn't have a job to go to. And I just thought, I would get a job. But because we're in Salisbury and I didn't drive, because you don't need a car in London, and I hadn't bothered, it kind of limited me on jobs. So it took me 3 months to get a full-time job. So I ended up doing lots of temporary roles, like sales calls, polling, like for Lib Dems. I worked in the Chapel nightclub for a couple of, just anything to get some money sort of up and running. Did caddying, golf course, just, boyfriend said, we can get some money here. I was like, okay, that'd be cool. While I was applying for jobs and going through job agencies, and then eventually I got marketing executive job. It's like manager. It was just me in the marketing area, just me and the CEO. And that was in Sortmo, which is a German company, and it was the UK branch. And I looked after all the advertising, all the events, and it was quite big, the event stuff, and all the article writing, so everything to do with marketing. So I was designing the ads, producing the ads, writing the copy, going to Germany, talking with the people there, learning more about the company. And then I even ended up, I don't speak German, but I even ended up translating, with Google. But because I could, so they'd send me their press releases and I'd translate it into UK English. But what would happen is, it's not a good translation, but because I knew the owners of the company and how they spoke, their personality, I would be able to put their tone of voice in the UK, in the English PR. And then I really enjoyed that. But then I was pregnant. I was with the boy's dad and my son's dad, and I had 6 months maternity leave. When I came back, all the people were kind of different in the office, been a massive overhaul, and so things had changed. So I started looking for a job again, and so I was like there, I think 4 years, and got a job at Friends Provident, as it was then. So in 2006, just after A-Day in April, I started working in financial services. I have worked in financial services ever since. I worked there until 2014, so I worked on the corporate pension side doing marketing, executive, so writing, working on product brochures. But then I ended up just doing mainly events, all the fun things you could do at pensions, like starting up a Twitter account, doing tweeting, and my tweets were in Financial Times on behalf of my head of pensions, so that was really cool. So that was because I called him, what was it now? Gosh, it's going back. Something to do with Pensions Womble, that was it, because he was really into Wimbledon Football Club. So I would give the personality, do the football, follow the football for Martin Palmer it was. And then there was like a spate of other pension animals. So Martin B had B Pension Monkey. It was all quite fun. And then I used to do the Professional Pension Show every year. I got a nickname of the Professional Pension Show Queen, doing that, and the Employee Benefits Show. So working closely with sales and propositions to produce that, and also the survey, do lots of surveys. So I worked on loads, and then I moved over to corporate protection, and again did loads of events, wrote a lot more articles, PR press releases, ended up supporting the director, and he got more PR than the CEO did in that year. I've still kept that in my portfolio because it was like a really nice, exciting moment. And then I got a phone call from a job agency, and there was a lot of changes because now it's Friends Life, they brought AXA, there was Bupa involved, there was a lot of change, and there wasn't many opportunities in Salisbury, in Friends, to grow. All the jobs were in Bristol, so you kind of knew where it was heading, and but loads of people have been working there for years and years and years, so they would just stay put. Whereas for me, I was only there 8 years, which still would have been a good redundancy package if I'd have been offered one. But I didn't wait around for that. I got a phone call to go contracting in 2014, and I was on 25 grand a year, and I needed to buy the boy's dad out because we'd split up in 2010, and you just want your house to be in your name and everything, and it was under awful circumstances, domestic violence, and so I just really needed something else to do. And I got this phone call and they said, would you like to go contracting work at Zurich, £400 per day? And I thought, I'm on 25 grand at the moment, I can't afford to buy them out. I could hang in there for another 2 years to see if I get a redundancy, or I can go now and earn £400 a day for 6 months, which would be more money than what I was earning, a lot more money. And so I did that, and I got an au pair in to help me with the childcare. And then I did contracting. You know, you always had sort of gaps, but you know, I did it with AXA, did it at SSE, so it was electricity company rather than financial services, and on the side I did some freelance marketing as well for a company up in London and a couple of other companies. And then I got a contract at Lloyd's in 2017. And all this time I've been following Adam Eason, who's a hypnotherapist. So I'd discovered him about 2015, and I thought I really want to be a hypnotherapist. That was like on the lines. So I never got to do the criminology, and I kind of gave up on it. But I was always helping. I'm always a people's person. It's always, you know, wherever I've worked, I've always helped people. I've been the person that's organised like team days, done people things. People come to me, ask me advice. Always had that wherever I've gone. And I just, the course was one weekend a month. And I just couldn't fit that in with the childcare work. And and a lot of the little ones ended up on the weekend. It was my weekend with the boys, so I didn't want to muck that around. It's just too difficult. And, it was a lot of coursework. In fact, I didn't really understand how much coursework it was until I did it in 2021 and 2022. 80 essays, 80, and 4 case studies, 4 people, 4 sessions each, case studies, to fit that all in, as well as doing a whole weekend a month in the classroom, which was great, while you're working full time. But I did it. So I was at Lloyd's, and I've moved house to where I am now, Southampton Road, and everything just felt really good. It was just after lockdown, and I had this email come through, and I just remember this today, and it said discounted, somebody's dropped out, got this place, would you like it? And something inside of me just took action, and I just did it there and then. I didn't procrastinate. I didn't really sit on it like I do a little bit now and things. I just went for it, and I haven't looked back since. It cost a lot, put me through a lot of effort to do it. And then last year, so 2024, I got my certificate in the January, and in the February, end of February, I already got my insurance because I got that the year before, where I was doing the Healing Festival, because you can do it as a student, hypnotherapist, all of that, because I'd done all my case studies, I'd done all my studying. It was just doing those essays to get the final certificate. And that was really cool, because I was at work, I was at home working, and it was a lunchtime call where I was an advocate for it's like helping people out in the workplace with mental health. So they had one of those, a mental health advocate call, and they were doing some internal festivals to help people. And they had loads of things like crafts, sports, and then they had meditation, had loads of things. And they said, has anybody got any skills outside of their day job that they'd like to bring into the workplace to help with these festivals? So I messaged the team, and I said, I could do group hypnotherapy. They snapped it up, and there was 10 of these festivals at work, and my manager said that I could do 4 of them, and so that's Edinburgh, London, Bristol and Cardiff. And the Edinburgh was the first one, and as soon as they put up the details, like an hour group hypnotherapy in Edinburgh, face to face, And I said things I was going to focus on, like stress, and then 20-minute hypnotherapy session on the control room. And within 2 days, 75 people had signed up. So I had to stop sign-ups. They had waiting lists. And I said, look, I'm up in Edinburgh anyway with work. And I'm delivering this in the morning. So why don't you put another session on in the afternoon? Because I didn't have a room for 75 people. So they split it into 2 sessions. And that worked really well. So I did one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And I got such great feedback. So really, people were like going, that's like the best hour I've had. I don't want to open my eyes and go back to work. I feel so good. It was amazing. I was so pleased. And then it was the same. Like in Bristol, I got a round of applause. London, it was really good. Cardiff, they really enjoyed it. Really, really good experience. And from then on, I just got invited to different meetings, to do team talks, to help with like the graduates. So in the end, and then I offered like a free hypnotherapy group session once a fortnight. The CEO of Scottish Widows was following me, and so was the MD of People and Places at Lloyd's. And I won an award for helping colleagues with their mental health. I put together a sleep program, and this is all off the side of my desk activities during the working week, as well as doing my IT migration and helping with customers' communications. So it was really good. I really enjoyed doing it. And then so 1,600 people attended my events from that February to the April. So February 2024 to 2025 April at Lloyd's. That's a good number of people in group hypnotherapy. And I took the results, because I always do feedback at all my group events. Okay, measure where you are today at the beginning and the measure at the end. And you can just see it in people's faces how much lighter, brighter, relaxed they are. Yeah, such great feedback. I just remember one person putting in the chat when I did an online one, he's going, oh man, you're going to have to call an ambulance because I'm so relaxed. I need to be carried out of here. So funny. Yeah, really, really good. So really proud of doing all of that. It was sad to leave Lloyd's, but I got an offer to go contracting again. And I unfortunately split up with my husband under, again, really bad circumstances. Just came out the blue. For me anyway, in January. And it's domestic violence. So yeah, again, so that's really, to have 2 relationships within 20 years of both experiencing that really took it out of me and made me realise all the skills that I learned as a hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner I really had to put in place for myself, for my own sanity, my own your own self-worth, what's going on. So it's really dig deep. So I ended up having some time off work, and then during that time, as a director I used to work with at Lloyd's, moved to Aviva, and he was working on an IT migration program, and he asked me to if I was be interested to just come over, because they were at the beginning of the migration. And I did have a look, and then I thought actually a change would be good. So when you've got so many bad negative things happening in your life, some people like to just have everything the same, consistent, so it's a bit more of a support network. But things are moving so fast in Lloyd's as well, with lots and lots of change. It's felt like a lot more pressure, and there's always going to be pressure wherever you work, but lots of things hadn't moved on, so the work I was working on just wasn't moving, things like that. And so when I got offered this job, and again it was a lot more money than what I was on, so I thought, and it's contracting, so yes, I've given up a really nice safe job, but the bigger picture is that I can afford the house on my own, I'm growing all the time in my job, my day job at Aviva, sharing all my knowledge, which is really seems to be really appreciated, which is great. Really like that. And then I'm opening up other doors for other opportunities to hopefully do group hypnotherapy there as well. We've just had one team day, and I was speaking to some senior managers there about doing that, and they were really interested and up for that. So we'll see how that goes. And I've got some workshops I'm going to put together. I've got people asking me to train them on how to do group events in corporations. And for me, obviously, because I'm one of them, like if you're in financial services, you know kind of how to talk to people, what things will work, and because it's very risk averse, or rather it's not very risk averse, need to always come more from a stats point of view on how hypnotherapy is, more a scientific way of explaining it. Whereas when I go to my body, mind and spirit events, I still include all that in there, but they're less likely, they're more open to the idea of hypnotherapy. They most probably experienced it, read up about it, whereas a lot of people that I was giving group hypnotherapy to, they hadn't, and there was a real eye-opener, and I had some real breakthroughs, and just when they're attending once a fortnight for half an hour at lunchtime. There was one lady, I was talking about the changes of a tree. I mean, she'd been to quite a few sessions, we'd had conversations about mindset, and she worked in risk. And I realised what she was doing is, because her day job is all about risk, she was ending up looking at all the risks outside of the day job. And it was very easy to do, and a lot of us do it anyway. But obviously if you're doing that at work, you just put that mindset into everything you do, and then you can live in a more of a fearful place in your home life, in your day-to-day outside of work. And so it's knowing when to adjust that mindset to the mindset that you need for the workplace, and then the mindset to just have a nice relaxing time at home and out and about with your family. So that's where I'm at. I mean, and why I called my practice What Is Your Story Hypnotherapy is because it's always about the stories we tell ourselves. What we're hanging on to, those beliefs. Oh, that will never happen. I could never do that in life. Oh, but my mum was always like that, so I am. Oh, I was told by a teacher that I'd never be any good at that, so I haven't bothered. There's all of those are stories and beliefs that are other people's opinions and stuff. The only limit we have in life is the limit we put on ourselves. And we can grow, we can change, we can become whoever we want to, whenever we need to. When I think about how far I have come since 2010, all the different jobs I've done. I mean, whenever I've done contracting, it's always been a different one. I ended up working on videos, going through web pages, seeing where the customer journey was, fitting them in. And I wasn't editing the videos, but I put together the storyboards, the themes, cut out all of the words, made sure everybody had a place. And I had to limit it to 2 minutes, 30 seconds. All of that stuff really comes into play when you're doing videos. So I'm now learning lots of AI so that I can help do that, and it's amazing. So I'm always upskilling myself, always learning. I have done quite a few courses other than the hypnotherapy one. So I've done some coaching courses. I've done part of the integral eye movement. I've done some metaphors or movement, whichever way it is. I must put this all on my website. Done all that. So all of these things are tools I can have, and I'm a Reiki master teacher, so I'm bringing that into the hypnotherapy as well now. When I was at the at the healing festival, I was giving Reiki as I was doing the hypnotherapy, and for some people where they were so upset with what trauma they had, it can really helped with that. So I'm definitely going to incorporate more of that. I brought a steel tongue drum, which is really cool, and it's tuned to the heart chakra. So I'm going to incorporate that into my hypnotherapy, especially getting people deeper. I think that's noise can really resonate with people, help them connect to their heart chakra, help them go deep quite quickly. It helps people calm instantly. Because sometimes people are so stressed out, especially if you had trauma, you're kind of on edge, your body's might not realise it, but all you need is somebody to be shouting or irritable at you, especially if you've been through like domestic violence and that. And straight away you're like, oh, what have I done now? What's going to happen? And you don't want to be like that. So anything to help calm, get yourself and reset your body. Yeah. So lots of these things are really good tools to use that I can implement in to help people. So I'm still not a criminologist, but I read body language, read people, and I really like helping everyday person to be the better selves, to actually really help themselves. I've set up a podcast called I Can Cope, which is about recognising when you get, if you're saying I'm stressed, what's going to happen? You're actually perpetuating that stressful feeling. Whereas if you change your wording to I can cope, sounds better. You're telling your body, you're telling the universe, you're in control, I can cope. When you're stressed, you're saying, if somebody rings you up, go, hello, I'm stressed. What do you want to do? You want to go, goodbye. Hello, I can cope. It just sounds better. And you go, yes, of course you can cope. You see what I'm saying? Yes. This wasn't a short video. I've just rumbled through a lot there. My background. And I love music, love clothes, presentation. I've done gastric bands. That was really cool, really enjoyed that. And I dress up in scrubs to help with certain things. So I've done a replication of other operations so that the mind can get used to what's happened or to accept things. Yeah, done lots of work, and at the moment I'm doing a lot of work on connecting to the body parts so that the body is, somebody I know had a liver transplant, and so it's like just making sure that the body's all connected and happy, and if somebody's been like cross with their body parts, it's just about releasing all that cross. Don't ever be cross with your body parts. Just give yourself love, self-love, kindness, and that love. Right, I'm gonna leave it there, and I better cut this into shorter videos, I think, some little short ones. But thank you if you're still here. Follow What Is Your Story Hypnotherapy on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok it's Charlotte Hypno. And I do some DJing on the side, and my DJ name is Hypnobird. So I'm going to develop some hypnotherapy at the beginning of the DJ set where you imagine your best party you've ever been to and get into that really happy state, and then just enjoy the music. Anyway, bye for now.